Hi, friends, and welcome to Worth of a Woman here. We are talking today about correction. And I don't know about you guys, but I personally would rather go clean my toilets than talk about correction because who wants to deal with being corrected? But I also know it's such an important part of finding my worth in Christ is actually accepting that part of that comes with accepting correction. I don't know about you guys, but correction has never been something that I've ever wanted to hear. I remember when I was young and I tried out a ballet class, a very strict ballet teacher, and hearing over and over, Nikki, round those arms, Nikki, point those toes, Nikki, are you focusing? And I'm like, I'm focusing. I'm focusing on the fact that you are constantly calling my name, that everybody is knowing that I am not doing this right. And it wasn't long after that I told my mom, like, I want to quit this ballet class. It took some convincing, but she was like, why am I paying for something that my daughter hates? And I got to quit the ballet class. It was about 6 months later that the pastor's wife of our church, who happened to also be a prima ballerina, decided to start her own little ballet school there at the church. And I remember thinking, oh, she is like sugar and spice and everything nice. Like, I could totally take this because she's not going to correct me. Like, and if she does, it's going to be like coated in sprinkles. And so I could totally take that, right? And I'll tell you what, it wasn't too long into that ballet class that I started hearing like, Nikki, round your arms, Nikki, point your toes, Nikki, you need to do this way. And I remember thinking, that's it. Like, I'm done. I'm bailing. And my mom wasn't going to let me quit that fast this time. And I remember one time I was with my friend Julie and we were hanging out in the nursery as our sister's ballet class was still going on and ours was up next. And we were rocking in these rocking chairs, kind of crazy. We were in elementary school and all of a sudden Julie stops and she looks at me and I'm still rocking like crazy and she says, I wish our ballet teacher would correct me like she corrects you. And I'll tell you what, like I'm rocking and I just stopped like on a dime and I'm thinking, are you crazy? Like, why? And I remember her saying, because she corrects people that she knows can get better. And I want her to correct me more. And man, did that blow my little elementary mind. Because all of a sudden I realized, like, if Julie, who was like the natural ballerina, she was the one we were all trying to be like, if she was craving our teacher to correct her because she knew that meant growth, when I actually wanted the same thing, why was I trying to run so fast from it? I'll tell you what, it's not like I've loved correction ever since that day, but I remember that so fully because I think that that was the time my mindset at least changed about correction, that maybe this was something that I actually needed, even though I didn't want. And maybe it wasn't something I was going to like welcome with open arms, but maybe it was something that was actually so needed in my life. You see, I totally desire to be worthy of God and I want his worth in my life. And I desperately want to be worthy of him, but I could really do without the correction. And that's how I feel sometimes. But I also know that accepting his love, which is what we've been talking about, means also accepting his correction. Raising children, I know that I can love them deeply, but with that comes my heart to correct them, to see them better, to see them grow. And you know what? If I chose to never ever correct them, then my love would be surface level. If they chose to never accept my correction ever, then they would only experience a surface level love. Because you know what? When we correct people and when we embrace correction, it shows the depth of love. It shows how much we care for somebody, to see them get better, to see them grow. So, how do we know if we are open to correction? Well, one of those, there's so many scriptures about being teachable, and there's so many scriptures about the potter and the clay and all that. Like, who wants to be the clay? Like, that just looks like it hurts and it's stretching. But one of the things that when I ask myself, am I open to correction, is have I said sorry in the last week? In other words, like, I don't know about you, but I can guarantee that I did not like hit it 100% last week. Like, there were probably some moments that I definitely needed to apologize to people, whether it was to my own kids for my attitude, maybe the shortness with my husband, maybe something I did at work. And I'm thinking, you know what? Sorry should be a word that is constantly in my vocabulary. Why? Because that tells me that I am teachable. That tells me that I am moldable. And it tells me that I'm open to the conversations that God is having with me. You see, there's a story in Luke 10, and it's about Mary and Martha. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm a Martha. Like, I get the girl. She is making her check boxes and she is checking them off. And that's me. Like if I'm juggling a million things, I feel like I actually operate better. And I think that's Martha. She's a doer. And here Jesus is coming into town and he wants to have dinner with Mary and Martha. They're dear friends of his. And for some reason, they know that he's coming. And so Martha starts prepping. And you gotta love the girl because she is not trying to just do a meal for Jesus. She's trying to do a grand meal. Now you have to understand this is in the middle of Jesus's ministry. So he's having thousands of people that are following him. If somebody famous said, oh, hey, by the way, I want to stop over at your house for dinner, would you not want to have your best place setting out for him? And that's exactly what Martha did. Now, Martha and Mary are sisters. And if you have a sister or if you have kids, two girls, you can kind of understand a sister relationship can be so funny at times. I was raised in a house with 3 girls. All I have is sisters. And I'll tell you what, like we can totally call each other on the carpet and hug it out the next minute. And that's kind of what we see with Mary and Martha. You see, Jesus comes into their house and the first thing that happens is Mary sits at his feet. Now, I'm just going to like play story here for a minute because maybe we don't have this complete detail in the scriptures, but here's how I would like to imagine that the story happened. Like maybe Martha was like, oh, good. She's sitting at his feet. She's entertaining him for a minute. I'm going to go finish the meal. Okay, I need to soak the lentils a little bit longer. Okay, I need to cut those beans over there, those green beans. Oh, I need to turn that meat. Oh man, I need some more wood for the fire. I mean, if I do all this, the meat's gonna burn, or if I go get the wood, the meat might burn. So you know what? I'll go give Mary the eye, right? You ever give somebody the eye, like, come help me for a minute, right? I wonder if she did that. And then, man, she keeps going and she's still cooking and she's like, oh, where's the best wine? Oh, how many clean glasses do I have? What if I have extra guests? And then she looks, oh, I'm running out of the fire. It needs more wood. It's gonna go out. And then she gets so frustrated. Maybe these moments keep building inside of her when she just is like, oh, I can't do all of it. And she literally goes into the room and here's what she says. Lord, doesn't it seem unfair to you that my sister just sits here while I do all the work? Tell her to come and help me. She probably thought Jesus would be like, yeah, now I'm telling you what, you can call your sister out on things in front of Lord Jesus. She didn't have a problem with that. It was her sister. But I'm sure she may have thought that Jesus would be like, yeah, you're right, Mary, go help her for 10 minutes. But here's what he says. My dear Martha, you are worried and upset over all these details. There's only one thing worth being concerned about. Mary has discovered it and it will not be taken away from her. And I'm sure Martha was like, what? Like, I'm doing something to please you. I'm doing all this for you. And how could I be the one that's wrong? You see, in true fashion of Jesus, he was totally after Martha's character. He was after the heart of her. He was going, hey, Martha, it's not about the acts of service. It's about sitting at my feet and just talking. Okay, I'm just going to say this because a lot of us could probably use to hear this, but there is a point when service can be self-serving. In other words, we like live service. We feel like it's like the check marks, like I can do all these good things, but we forgot to sit at the feet of Jesus. Because sitting at the feet of Jesus is actually where correction comes from. And she was missing out on growth because she was so busy serving. Anybody need to hear that? Sometimes we have to sit at the feet of Jesus, even there's a million things to do. We don't have the end of this story, but I would love to think that Martha actually forgot about the meal. She took what was left. Maybe meat was a little bit raw. Maybe the green beans really weren't cooked. Maybe the wine glasses weren't precisely clean. But maybe she put out what she had, and she spent the rest of the time just learning from Jesus. You see, for God to use us, we have to be teachable for him. As we are stretched and thinned, it's totally going to hurt. It's not going to be pleasant, but I can tell you what, it will be magnificent in the end. But sometimes we have to heed correction. We have to listen to him, and that means even putting acts of service to the side to focus on what he is saying. Where in your life have you heard God correcting you lately? If you haven't heard him correcting you, are you at his feet? Are you listening to him? And making sure that sorry is part of your vocabulary. Being open to admit those things that you're wrong about. Because you know what? There's grace and grace and grace. Not only from God, but from other people. As we embrace correction, we also are embracing growth. You see, if you want to find your full worth in him, it's so easy for us to embrace the love and not want to take the correction part. But I'll tell you what, you'll actually be missing out if you don't find yourself also worthy of correction.